let's take a look at the 1964 D over D repunched mint mark variety for the issue, due to the absolutely astonishing mintage figure of nearly 1.8 billion coins for the Denver Mint of the 1964 dated nickels. There are numerous repunched mint mark varieties known, although only a single issue is included in the cherry picker's guide, and as such is more widely recognized by services such as PCGS. In this coin, the final mint mark is placed to the north of the initial impression, leading to the D appearing slightly doubled towards the south, as well as a very nice dovetail effect that can be seen towards the upper serif of the mint mark as well. Although I should note that this coin outside of the mint state range would typically sell for well under $100. The auction record for this type, however, belongs to a coin that was sold in June of 2014, an MS65 graded coin from PCGS sold at auction for a total of $4,015. Another coin with an interesting repunched mint mark is the 1954 D over D variety. This coin is oftentimes attributed as a D over S variety and even a D over D over S triple punched mint mark. This is due to the inclusion of a very obvious curved line that appears in the middle center part of the cavity of the D, strongly resembling the central portion of an S. The debate continues to rage on as to what exactly this variety should be called, and is frankly not really helped along by the fact that the initial D is not the strongest to begin with, really only seen at the southernmost part of the mint mark. At any rate, in 2014 a new record was set for this variety when a PCGS graded MS64 coin was sold at auction for $759. And a nickel that is no doubt familiar to many collectors of the series is yet another repunched mint mark in the form of a 1946 D over inverted D variety, one of the original so-called top 10 most wanted nickels of the series. In this coin, the original mint mark was punched inverted or upside down or back to front, as the case may be. At any rate, the final placing was directly over the original D, and as such eliminated all traces of the first punching, save for the slight rounding of the D that can now be seen towards the left of the straight bar of the D, as shown here. In terms of value, this coin is always in extreme demand. Even in lower grades, the coin will fetch prices of several $100s each with relative ease, but it is in mint state where it truly shines, with or without full steps designation attached to it. In 2017, for example, a PCGS graded MS66 coin, this time with a full steps designation as well, was sold at auction for $2,585. The 1940 S over S variety is listed simply as a repunched mint mark coin, and in the strictest terms, it is just that, with the initial impression of the S mint mark clearly seen directly towards the south of the final impression. Easy to diagnose, easy to spot, and a perfect variety coin. However, where things get very interesting is when you start to examine the coin for additional die markers, of which this one has an abundance. Beginning with the reverse, there is a fair-sized die crack at the right-hand steps of the building that extends all the way towards the rim. Then, looking up from there towards the roof, also on the right wing of the building, there is an almost crescent-shaped die crack that in later die states, like the coin depicted here, will develop into a full-blown die break. You might also notice yet another die crack extending directly down from the second U in pluribus to the dome of the Monticello building. Tracking all of these in combination can give you a fairly clear picture of the coin's die state, as all of these will become exaggerated as the die state advances. Now, as if that wasn't quite enough, the obverse usually has either a single or a pair of die cracks on Jefferson's bust as well. Overall, quite a fascinating little coin, of which an example in a very early die state was sold in an internet auction in 2017 in a PCGS slab with a grade of MS66 for $450. From there, let's take a look at another repunched mint mark variety, but this time on a proof coin in the 1969 S/S variety. A very nice proof variety that you can look for in your 1969 US Mint proof sets, with a very distinctive repunched mint mark where the tail of the S is nicely doubled towards the west, in addition to the lower curl of the S also displaying doubling as seen here. Auction reports for this coin are a bit thin on the ground and the population report is similarly sparsely populated, but coins like this have been trading for around the $250 mark depending on grade. Then we look at a coin from the Jefferson Nickel's birth year for the 1938 double die obverse variety. This coin exhibits very slight pivoted hub doubling with a counterclockwise rotation, leading to the doubling appearing mostly towards the right of the primary image. The motto is only slightly doubled, with the "in" of "In God We Trust" being the most reliably doubled on most coins. Similar doubling can be spotted on the last few letters of Liberty, but the best spread is seen on the star dividing the Liberty from the date, and then of course the date itself has the clearest doubling on the coin. Look for doubling towards the northeast on the date, which would be best spotted on the 3 and the 8. Another interesting die marker that appears to be universal to this variety is a straight die gouge that connects the R and the T of Liberty. This variety used to be quite a bit more popular than it is today, but nonetheless, in January of 2016, an MS65 graded coin from PCGS with full steps was placed on auction and managed to raise $540 at auction. An interesting variety to look for if you have a few war nickels on hand. While it is true that the 1945D nickel has literally dozens of listed varieties, by far the widest repunched mint mark is this 1945 D/D coin. As the only of its brethren to be included in the Cherry Picker's Guide, it at least enjoys some recognition. Look at the center of the D for some additional materials at the top and the bottom where indicated here. This is where the initial D was originally placed. A very faint line can still be seen in some coins connecting the 2 points where the straight bar of the initial D used to be. In some cases, the rounding of the original D can also be seen under sufficient magnification. Additionally, this coin should also have a very nice die crack on the obverse running from the rim all the way across Jefferson's head in a diagonal line. The coin is not the most valuable, but you could expect anywhere between, say, $20 to maybe even $200 depending on its grade. And then a variety which is extremely difficult to locate but very easy to identify when you find one. This is the 1953 D/inverted D coin. As the name states, the first mint mark was punched on its side or face down, necessitating the second punching to correct this mistake. When this was done, a final remnant of the initial placement can now be seen peeking out from behind in the center of the straight bar of the D. Quite a rare variety, so it wasn't much of a surprise when in 2017 an MS66 graded coin from PCGS was sold for $540 at auction. 1941 produced a few very interesting repunchment marks, although the Denver Mint coins seem to attract less attention than their San Francisco counterparts for some reason. Whatever the reason for that, one of the nicer repunchment marks is this example where the initial D was placed southeast of the final impression, though you might be able to detect the rounding of the initial impression with the correct lighting. The true identifier for this variety is the lowest serif of the first punching. This can clearly be seen directly southwest and should be completely unmistakable. A nice variety, and in 2016 a coin with a grade of MS65+ with full steps from PCGS blew away pre-auction estimates and set a new record for the issue of $1,116.25. The 1971 S-Proof Nickel, a production run that was plagued with problems. To begin with, virtually all of the letters on the coin show very strong additional thickness that you can most likely best spot on the S of pluribus. Much stronger doubling can clearly be seen, however, on the last 4 to 5 letters of Monticello, along with some notching that can be visible on the lowest serifs of the letters of cents as well. Then finally, look to the right-facing side of the building itself and you should be able to detect doubling on just about all of the vertical design elements, such as the window bays and the right edges of the walls. Coins like this can trade for around $50 to $200 depending on grade and eye appeal. Then we see a variety from 1964, which was, to put things mildly, a tumultuous year for the mint. And in fact, what we have here is a coin which is not simply doubled, but tripled for a triple die reverse variety. This effect can best be seen on the letters of United States of America. It displays especially nicely on the words States, where every letter is clearly tripled. The effect is significantly less dramatic on the rest of the coin, however. During 2018, a Proof 68 graded coin from PCGS was sold in an online auction for $460. 1951 was the second only year that proof production resumed again for the series on a regular basis since the practice was suspended at the inception of the Second World War nearly a decade prior, and one of the broadest double dies is also represented here with this coin. The Class 5 hub doubling in this case is best illustrated on the chin and the lips, with the outline of the original profile now seen only as a faint line that serves to demonstrate just how wide the clockwise rotation must have been in this case. Further doubling is also seen on the various letters of In God We Trust, but is seen easiest on the word trust. During the 2014 Houston Money Show, a Proof 69 cameo graded coin from NGC was sold at auction for $3,525. One of the more prominent repunched, or to be more precise, over-mint mark varieties for the 1950s is assuredly the 1954 S over D variety. It is also one of the easier varieties to spot, as the initial D mint mark was punched directly south of the final placement of the S. Curiously, to the extent of my knowledge, a full steps example of this variety has yet to be discovered. To identify it, simply look towards the bottom of the S for the remaining portion of the lower D. A very simple and easy coin to identify in both lower and min-state grades alike. In an earlier die state, the straight bar of the D can even be detected in between the lower serif and the upper curl of the S, but this does tend to fade away in later die states. In June of 2019, an NGC graded example like this at a grade of MS66 was sold at auction for $336. As one of the lesser known varieties, this is one especially that many collectors tend to overlook. Granted, it is a proof-only variety, so you are unlikely to find it while coin roll hunting. Rather, it can be discovered as an undiagnosed variety in raw or graded coins, or in the original US Mint flat pack. What we are discussing is the 1954 proof nickel with the re-engraved obverse die. You see, when the obverse die was polished to a proof finish, it was done a little too enthusiastically, as a portion of the detail, especially on Jefferson's hair ribbon, was almost erased. To rectify this, the detail was then re-engraved by hand on the working die itself. Looking at the ribbon, you can clearly see that the outline was retraced by hand to emphasize the design. This variety is known in multiple die states as well. In 2017, a very nice PCGS graded Proof 66 example of this variety was sold at auction for $564. So then, having discussed a repunched mint mark and a re-engraved die, I think it only fair to look at a double die as well. In this case, it's an example of Class 8 doubling, where the initial hubbing likely failed due to a slight tilted hub and or die. The offset was corrected and the hubbing then completed. In this case, it results in a small portion of the steps of the building being doubled in a diagonal orientation just above and in between the N and the T of Monticello. Now, the coin's die state does affect how severe the doubling displays on the coin, so it can be either just a single line or in fact multiple lines forming full steps. Rather early on in 2018, a PCGS graded example of this variety with a grade of MS65 was sold at auction for $240. A very nice triple die obverse variety from 1963, a coin which can still on occasion be found in pocket change. And yes, you heard that correctly, it's a tripled die variety. Because of the nature of the Class 2 doubling on this coin, the effect can be best noticed closer to the rim, especially on the letters of E pluribus unum, where the tripling should be quite clear with the aid of very minimal magnification. America is also treated with the same effect, especially the C, in which the spread is quite strong indeed. 2016 saw the auction of a coin in an MS63 grade from PCGS for the sum of $63. The 1969 US Mint proof set harbors our next variety beneath its plastic enclosure. In this instance, we are looking at a repunched mint mark variety from the San Francisco Mint. The S was placed to the east of the initial impression, and the effects are clearly seen on the lower curl of the S mint mark, as well as a very neatly doubled lower serif, as seen here. Yet another good reason to double check those early proof sets for variety coins, as a coin of this description can expect a price of around $200 to $400 each. One more variety comes to us by the way of 1946, and it is a rather enigmatic variety coin as die state plays a very important role in how this variety presents itself. The 1946 double die reverse Jefferson Nickel is a coin that you will first be able to notice by the addition of extra steps that transect the top of the letters of Monticello. Now, as mentioned, die state is important here. In an earlier die state, the doubling will be very blatant. Unfortunately, these are few and far in between, as in most cases, it will only be far more subdued, only showing a slight effect on the C, E, and L, and sometimes not even that. So, another surefire way to identify this variety is to look for a marker just underneath the far left-facing pillar. In early 2019, a coin like this in a PCGS slab with a grade of MS65 was sold at auction for $504. 1941 was a fairly active year for variety coins in general. The nickel, though, alone had several prominent varieties to account for. The coin that we are looking at here is a fairly interesting case, both a repunched mint mark and a design variety of sorts, as a different mint mark style was employed for this specific coin. Looking at the bottom inner loop of the S of the mint mark is where you can best see the doubling in this case, regardless of mint state. And if I may say so, it's a rather sloppy application of the mint mark at best to boot. One can only wonder at the circumstances in the engraver's room on that particular day that led to the production of this die. But apart from the repunched mint mark, this is also a different mint mark style that was used from the usual application, known better as the large S mint mark. When compared to the normal or small s mint mark that is on your right now, the difference becomes very apparent. Not an easy variety to locate by any means. An MS65 example graded by PCGS and with full steps designation was sold at auction during 2016 for $329. War nickels remain an ever-popular subtype within the Jefferson series, and it certainly presents one of the most fertile hunting grounds for variety collectors today, with almost dozens of varieties for virtually every issue. Here we are looking at the most prominent of the repunched mint mark varieties for the Philadelphia coin, where you can clearly see the straight bar of the P being doubled towards the right. For those who like to dissect the coin's die state, a very nice die crack formed across the face of the Monticello building towards the right in a later die state. This feature is completely missing from the earlier die state examples. During 2018, a very attractive MS66 graded coin like this from PCGS was sold at auction for $1,020. The 1955 D over S over mint mark variety is most likely the result of a policy shift at the US Mint. You see, during that year, production of circulating coins was halted at the San Francisco Mint, as the facility was being transformed into purely an assay's office. This situation would persist until 1968, when regular coining operations would be resumed. But this left the Mint apparently with a number of working dies already punched with an S mint mark. So instead of discarding them completely, they were overstruck with a D mint mark and then sent to the Denver Mint instead to be pressed into service there. The remnants of the original S on this particular case can be detected towards the top of the D, as well as just below the upper serif of the D as well. This is the most prominent of the overmint mark varieties for this date that are known. In early 2019, a PCGS graded 1955 D over S Jefferson Nickel with a grade of MS66 was sold at auction for $900. I thought we'd take a quick look at a few of the war nickel varieties. So, to kick things off, let's examine one of the numerous variety coins that came from the 1943 P war nickel production run. As far as double die varieties go, this may not be the most dramatic, but it is a very luscious example of distended hub doubling, or class 6 doubling, as it is also known. It is mostly characterized by a swollen appearance, where the letters of "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" are thicker than they really should be, with what also displays as more traditional doubling in certain areas as well. The T of trust is a prime example of that, where the straight bar appears to be doubled towards the west. Similarly, the top serif of the E in liberty should also be doubled towards the east. These two areas can be used as primary identifiers for this variety. Coins like these should attract a significant premium above the base coin by a factor of at least 2 to 5, so an MS65 coin should be at least $100, although supposedly an example sold on eBay in 2018 for $241, although personally I haven't been able to verify that. Looking back 1 year from there to the 1942 nickel, but this time from the San Francisco Mint, we find quite a nice repunched mint mark variety to examine, and one that is nice and easy to identify as well. It's actually a triple punched mint mark, to be more precise, as you can clearly see the initial and secondary strikings of the S towards the west of the upper loop of the mint mark. The lower serif of the S should also be similarly affected, and then the lower loop should have a nice clear separation line to boot. As if that wasn't quite enough, this variety is known to appear with several very nice die cracks as well, depending on the specific die state of your coin. The most common of these, though, appear on the obverse and extends from the rim of the coin upwards and across Jefferson's collar, as indicated here. 2019 saw one of these coins sell in a PCGS lab with a grade of MS65 for a nice even price of $300. And then, if we're discussing war nickel varieties, then it is almost compulsory to mention the 1943 over 2 variety coin, which is actually simultaneously an overdate as well as a double die variety. Now, I could probably make an entire video just about this one coin, but to keep things concise, look at the 3 of the date. The base, or the lower horizontal portion of the original 2, along with a small portion of the diagonal bar, should still be seen underneath the 3. You see, the die for this coin was created by originally being struck with a 1942 hub and then overstruck with a 1943 dated hub instead. So, in the process was not only an overdate variety created, but a double die variety as well. Look towards the 1 and the 4 of the date to see the effects of this, as well as the star just in front of the date as well. Although, to be honest, most letters of Liberty and In God We Trust display some doubling as well. During 2016, a PCGS graded coin like this with a grade of MS67 with full steps was sold at auction for $4,465. Subscribe to WNN and activate notifications with the bell icon so you'll know when new videos are released. For the World Numismatic News, I am Numisman saying thank you ever so much for watching, and remember to keep collecting and have a great day.